People love to say that solitude makes you stronger. Today, I'm going to show you the side no one talks about, the scariest level of solitude that separates you from yourself. Let's start with a pattern interrupt. The most dangerous form of loneliness is not being alone. It's waking up one day and realizing you've been drifting away from your own identity without noticing. And throughout this video, I'm going to show you exactly how this happens, why it's terrifying, and why almost no one realizes it until it's too late. Here's the gap I'll open now and close only in the final of this video. Why do some people experience a kind of internal silence so deep that the mind begins to split into two roles? One part lives, the other part watches. It's called dissociative solitude, and it doesn't start with isolation. It starts with adaptation. You get quieter, more independent, more self-contained. You stop reaching out. You stop expecting anything from anyone. And without noticing, you begin to disappear inside your own head. This isn't depression, and it isn't introversion. It's a slow erosion of identity. It happens to people who look strong, stable, and entirely in control. But the unsettling truth is this. There is one subtle symptom almost everyone ignores. A sign that seems harmless at first, but it's the moment when your mind begins to detach from the world around you. And this is where everything starts to unravel. Everything begins with something so small you almost brush it off. You start talking to yourself more than you talk to anyone else. At first, it feels normal. You rehearse conversations in your head, solve problems silently, think through situations before acting. But slowly, that internal dialogue stops being a tool and becomes company. You talk to yourself because there's no one else to talk to. You explain things to yourself because no one asks how you're doing. And one day, without noticing, your inner voice becomes the only voice you truly trust. This is the first step of dissociative solitude, when your mind becomes both the speaker and the listener. Then something slightly more alarming happens. You begin to observe your own life from a distance. Not metaphorically, literally. Your memories start feeling like scenes you watched, not experiences you lived. You replay moments as if you were analyzing someone else's behavior. This is the mind trying to protect you. It's creating space, buffering emotions, reducing intensity. But that psychological distance is also the beginning of the split. And here's the thing. Most people don't notice this shift because it feels functional. You appear calm, composed, and logical. You convince yourself it's just maturity, or introversion, or focus. But almost no one realizes what's actually happening next, because it doesn't show up on the outside. It shows up inside, in the way your identity starts drifting like fog. And this is the moment where things truly begin to go wrong. Here's where dissociative solitude stops being subtle and starts becoming frightening. You begin to feel slightly out of your own body, not enough to panic, but enough to notice something is off. Moments feel delayed, as if reality reaches you half a second late. Your voice sounds unfamiliar when you speak. You look in the mirror and it takes you a moment to recognize the person staring back. This is not weakness. This is not being dramatic. And if this has ever happened to you, it does not mean you're broken. It means you've been carrying more silence inside you than any mind was designed to handle. Because here's the hard-to-swallow truth people avoid telling you. When emotional connection disappears for too long, the brain protects you by pulling you away from yourself. It creates a buffer, a distance, a quiet internal room where you can watch life instead of feeling it. You stop reacting instinctively. You start performing socially instead of participating. Every gesture feels rehearsed. Every smile feels calculated. Every interaction feels like you're following a script you wrote just to appear normal. And eventually, something strange happens. You begin to forget how to be around people. Not because you dislike them, but because your mind has spent too long in survival mode, rehearsing life instead of living it. You start feeling like a visitor in your own life, not a participant, not a protagonist, a visitor. You walk into your own room and feel like something is missing, but you can't explain what. You go through your routine on autopilot. You answer messages mechanically. You laugh at things without really feeling the emotion behind why you're laughing. This is the peak of dissociative solitude, when your mind stops treating the world as yours. When every environment feels borrowed, every connection feels temporary, every version of you feels unstable. The reason this happens is not because you're weak or incapable. It's because the human mind wasn't built to live without emotional reflection. When no one mirrors you, when no one asks who you are, when no one validates your presence, your identity begins to fade, just like a photograph left too long in the sun. But the question is, can you come back from this? Yes, but not by forcing socialization, or pretending everything is fine, or trying to act normal. The way back is slower, deeper, and much more personal. And in the final part, I'll show you the piece that closes the gap from the beginning, the step that pulls you from observation back into presence. Because there is a way to return. And once you understand it, the dissociation begins to dissolve. Let's close everything we opened from the beginning. You remember when I said the scariest level of solitude isn't being alone, but drifting away from yourself? Here's the last piece of that truth. You don't recover your identity by forcing connection. You recover it by rebuilding presence. The way back from dissociative solitude is not dramatic. It's not a sudden breakthrough. It's a slow return to your own body, your own sensations, your own voice. It starts with grounding. Small, physical anchors that pull you back into the moment. Your breath, your footsteps, the temperature on your skin, the sound of your own voice when you speak out loud. Because the more you reconnect with your senses, the less space dissociation has to survive. Then comes the second step. Talk to someone. Not with a performance. Not with a mask. A real conversation, even if it's simple, brief, or imperfect. Human presence reactivates parts of your identity that isolation quietly numbed. And finally, you stop trying to be the strong one who doesn't need anyone. Because this entire state begins with adaptation, with pretending you're fine for too long. You don't heal by disappearing inside yourself. You heal by reclaiming yourself a little at a time. If this kind of truth helps you understand your own mind better, subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. No pressure, just stay around if this resonates with you. And remember this, the problem was never that you were alone. The problem was believing you had to face everything without being present in your own life. Understanding that already puts you ahead of most people.